Thanks, Green Scorpion, for the awesome new intro. Hello, this is the Wandering Detective, and despite the weeks of summer homework and general laziness that has been keeping me from making videos, I'm finally ready to unveil my next countdown. Now, I have a feeling about 80 to 90% of you guys watching this video are staring at the title and wondering what the heck Sin and Punishment even is. Sin and Punishment, Successor of the Earth, is an on-rail shooter that was released from the Nintendo 64 in Japan back in 2000, and was released on the Virtual Console in 2007. It stars Saki Amamiya and Iron Joe as they fight creatures called ruffians and the armed volunteers in an incredibly confusing story that can only be slightly understood by looking it up on Wikipedia and staring at that paragraph for about an hour. Eventually, the game got a sequel known as Sin and Punishment Star Successor for the Wii in 2009. The game added a few things like charge shots flying around the screen, and follows the story of Saki and Iron's son Issa Joe alongside a mysterious girl named Kachi. Both of these games are incredibly fun, being my favorite Nintendo 64 and Wii games respectively. However, few people know about these games, most likely due to the original's lack of a Western release outside the Virtual Console, and the sequel for just sorta being on the Wii. But hopefully, that will end today, because between these two games, I'll be counting down my 15 favorite boss battles. This includes both sub-bosses and level-end bosses. And despite how short these games are, they tend to throw a lot of mini-bosses at the player, meaning I have a total of 62 battles to choose from. 62! As for other rules, I can have as many bosses from one game or one level as I want, though I tried my best to keep it about 50-50 between the two games. Also, there will be some spoilers for both games on this list, including final bosses. Also, this is all my opinion. I'm sure there will be some disagreement between the 10 to 20 of you who have actually played this game, but please, respect my decisions regardless. With all that out of the way, this is the top 15 Sin and Punishment boss battles.
Let's take a breather in here!
Leaving so soon? There's no escape from the nebulas.
I have to admit, I used to hate the mini-boss fight against Leda in level 2-1 of the original game. Leda is a small, cat-like creature that serves as a friend of sorts to the leader of the armed volunteers, Brad, and its battle is broken into two parts. The first phase features Leda hiding in the center of a group of pillars, and you, playing as Iron, have to either circle around in order to get a clear shot, or use melee attacks to hurl the explosives around the arena towards Leda. This phase isn't too difficult, but it's when Leda jumps on top of the pillars and circles the arena at higher grounds that things could get a little annoying. Brad keeps telepathically sending shockwaves through the arena during this phase, and at first I had no idea how to hit Leda. I lost several continues just trying to shoot him down before time ran out. Once you have the pattern down though, this battle can be pretty easy and surprisingly enjoyable. The primary strategy for phase 2 of this fight is basically to jump up and slash Leda with a melee attack every time it passes by. While the fight itself can be a little confusing and it's overall a very simple mini-boss, the pleasure of just slashing that thing about is so satisfying. Oh, come on. You'd want to slash that thing too if you had to listen to its squealy voice all the time. No, don't play it. One of the great things about Sin and Punishment is just how epic some of the scenarios are. For example, fighting one-on-one with a killer airship that shoots lasers. So yeah, Near Zero is a pretty fun fight. The Armed Volunteers aircraft will throw some intense attacks your way almost immediately. Will send a large stream of lightning down to the ground and attempt to sweep you with it, surround you with a huge string of bullets, and even shoot missiles at you that can be deflected for extra damage. The fight is fairly easy and requires nothing more than simply dodging the attacks and keeping fire on the ship, but it's forgivable given that this is one of the first few bosses in the game. However, the sequel did a little better in making good first impressions with their boss battles. Pacifier is the first boss of Star Successor, and serves as a very good hint at what is to come in this game, namely, rinse and repeat. Despite being the boss of a tutorial level and having a really silly name, this boss is actually quite fun and can be slightly challenging. The battle begins with you at ground level near the machine's legs, while it begins to walk in a circle in an attempt to squash you. And then it's just chaos, with the pacifier shooting laser beams at you, creating stacks of fire, creating waves of energy that can actually be difficult to dodge. All you have to do is not get crushed and or obliterated while you aim for the base or shoot down parts of the ceiling to do damage. Once this phase is over, get a nice little break to dish out some melee attacks before heading up into the air for phase 2. Here, Pacifier will attempt to shoot you down with a barrage of energy shots, exploding bullets, and even deflectable missiles. And when you defeat him, get a nice explosion to finish the chapter off. Once I inevitably remake Top 10 First Bosses, you can bet that this guy will be on there. You know what's more ridiculously awesome than fighting one jet by yourself? Fighting 5 of them, of course! And yeah, the Malaysia battle is basically you versus 5 jets. The weak point in this battle is the Malaysia itself, which is marked by Brad standing on top while defying gravity. You have to focus your fire on this ship while 4 others attempt to blow you to Kingdom Come, swooping by, shooting tons of bullets at you, and launching missiles that can be deflected towards the center ship to end the fight relatively quickly. But if you want the fight to actually be fun, the second phase features you having to avoid the multiple ships attacking you with freaking lasers. The open air atmosphere of this fight, which takes place way up in the air, is also a very nice touch to this fight's atmosphere. Overall, it's just an intense and fun fight. Unless you're cheap. Okay, so what do you get when you take the Impossible game and Tetris, give them to the most hideous thing you've ever seen in your entire life, and make it all a boss battle? You get the Horror Keeper, of course. This entire battle is frustrating, but epic. As the battle begins, you have to make your way through a vertical obstacle course filled with blocks, explosions, and these flaming things that I swear are the most annoying things to dodge in a freaking vertical while scrolling lever up, etc. All this time, the Horror Keeper is trying to attack you in the background, and you need to keep him at bay to make sure that doesn't happen. Once that phase is done, you go on to the battle with the Keeper itself. In this phase, blocks begin to fall down on you, while the Horror Keeper attempts to attack you by smashing you with his fists, using the flaming chains on his wrists, and... Wait, what?
I'm a firing my laser!
Okay. With a rather creative battle style and a fair amount of difficulty, mostly fair amount of difficulty, the Horror Keeper makes it onto this list. After my first couple of attempts at the Komodo Keeper battle, I was confused and angry. I mean, what am I supposed to do in a battle where I just keep flying off the back of the arena? But then I actually stopped derping long enough to hear,
"This train's really moving. I'll be blown away if I stay in the air for too long."
And after face-palming to myself, the fight became fun. The Komodo Keeper chases you across these train tracks while you move across the multiple platforms moving across the tracks. You have to take out a bunch of low-level peons as you are chased, all while keeping out of the air for more than 3 seconds. To actually damage the Komodo Keeper, you have to slash these lever things keeping the platforms together so you can fly backwards towards the boss. Of course it isn't that difficult, since it's just chasing you the whole time. I mean, how's it even supposed to attack? I take it back, I take it back, I take it back! So while all this craziness is going on, you have to dodge enormous fireballs being hurled at you from behind, with the occasional attempt to attack from in front of the platforms. The creativity mixed with the hectic nature of this fight makes for a very enjoyable experience. You know, unless you get blown away, and it sort of sucks. And now, for the first boss that isn't a giant machine, monster, or jet. Hibaru Yaju is a member of the Nebulox, or G5 if you want to be Japanese about it, the antagonistic group in Star Successor. Hibaru is essentially a stereotypical teenage girl mixed with a samurai that can fly. Well, that's just awesome. The concept of this battle is very simple, but executing it properly can be very difficult unless you spend all day playing rhythm games, because this battle is almost all about timing. Hibaru's main attack is to dash at you and strike you with her sword. In order to defend yourself and harm Hibaru, you have to do a well-timed melee attack to block her. Once she's been hit enough, she gets dizzy and vulnerable, followed by a barrage of shots that you'll need to dodge. After that, it's rinse and repeat.
Alright, you win. Wow. You really are something else.
I've mentioned the Armed Volunteers leader Brad a couple times on this list already, the Leda and Malaysia segments, but I think it's finally time I talked about his actual boss battle. First thing to note is that in this two-part battle, you can't actually hurt Brad himself. Instead, the first phase requires you to shoot. Oh, you are going down! Brad actually fights in a similar style to the player during this phase, using his own gun against you with his very own reticle and everything. Once you've taken down Leda for the last time, Brad attempts to shoot you with an explosion shot before going up for a flurry of melee attacks that you must counter. If you can successfully counter them, he'll fly back into the window behind him. Once you've knocked him back 3 times,